Alrighty, man.
Okay, what's with the orange thing?
No
If you
reporter-like comments and
Reporter
no.
like?
You know how you pretend that you speak a certain
No, I'll
accent and then you pretend that you're this.
no,
and
no,
then
I'll be genuinely me. But
We've got one rule.
the main,
It's authentic belief,
okay, you see, you throw this word belief around a
or
lot.
it's nothing.
This is what I get asked a lot.
What do you get asked him, man?
'Cause you're always talking about belief.
Yeah.
I really talk about it, and a lot of people ask me, "What does Omar mean by belief? 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 Belief?" What do you actually mean?
One person said to me, "I don't believe in this belief stuff." I'm like, mate, that's a belief.
Yeah, but see,
It's ridiculous.
no, but what I'm saying is, when
mean,
you
doesn't-
say
doesn't
when you
take a
say
genius
belief,
to work out what
like
a
you put
belief
up a
is.
post today, it even confused me a bit. It was like belief is X, belief is X, belief is X. It starts with belief.
Yeah.
Like, why is everything about belief?
It's a genuine question.
Yeah, why is
So
everything
you
come
don't
back
know
to
the
belief?
answer to that?
I know the answer to that.
What do you think the
because
answer?
I've
What
been
do you
around
think?
you. I've been here for 10 years.
What do you think the answer
But
is?
if I'm an associate,
You know
and
what
I see
gets
this
me?
word
You know what
belief-
gets
no,
me?
no, wait. If
Yeah.
I'm an associate,
Yeah.
I'm gonna read 80% of the industry says, call 100 people, you're gonna come
Well,
across
if you're an
two
associate,
appraisals.
that's your first problem.
Just
You called yourself an associate. You
All
got,
right, so
you got
I'm a
belief
co-ed.
issues. You got belief issues.
Great, and I do.
Yeah.
So I'm an associate, and I say call 100 people, you're going to get 2 appraisals.
Yeah.
From those 2 appraisals, one of them's going to turn into a listing.
Yeah.
I see that across 80% of the industry. Then I go onto Oz Realty's page and I see belief.
Yeah.
One seems a bit more practical, the other one doesn't. So how do you make sense of that?
You think it's practical to call 100 people and with a 50-50 bet if someone's selling or not? I mean, I think it's insane.
But it's easy to go, all right, I can call 100
It's
people.
easy to
and
call 100 people and
It's not
just.
easy, but I can do
Yeah.
it. How do you do
I think
belief?
I think it's easier just to sit there and think about the value you're going to give, and then think about. I'll tell you what belief is. I'll tell you what belief is in that context.
I'm
No.
doing some
In that
actionable
context, in
steps
that
to
I'll give you a step two. In that context, I'll tell you what belief is. Okay, the person who's calling 100 people believes that if they call 100 people, they're going to get lucky with 2, and they're looking for something to take. That's effectively what they're doing. That's their belief, right? So they believe.
But you're assuming something to take is a bad thing. If I want to
No, it is something to take because no one wants to give you anything without receiving anything. So it is a bad thing. It is a bad thing. I mean, if anyone turns up to your house with something to take, I mean, is that ever good?
No, but back to I'm now trying to build a business. I want to do 10, 15, 20 sales a month.
No, but you just said the practical thing.
Yeah, how do you
Well,
practically
what I'm saying-
action belief if I have none?
What I'm saying is practical. They are practically actioning belief. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They are practically actioning belief. It's just what they're saying is, I believe if I call 100 people, 2 will connect. Which type of person wants to sit there and have a meeting with salespeople and say, guys, it's a numbers game. You are dealing with people. It is a ridiculous belief. It's not only practical.
But question, if I happen to call 100 people,
Yeah.
will it work?
Well, what work? That's
Will
the
I
thing. What's the
find
definition of
listings?
work? Find listings. So that's the
will I?
definition. So your definition is I want to find listings.
Yes.
Okay, so now you've got a situation where you're effectively saying that
Well, I want to build a business, whatever the case may be. The reason I'm asking is, say
what's a
I'm-
business? Let's start there. Let's start there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll try and unpack this because some of the stuff out there that I hear is ridiculous. Right. Okay. Let's start there. I want to build a business. Do you even know what is a business? What's a business? Do you know what a business is?
You give value and you get money in
No,
return.
but okay, you give value and get money in return. Okay, but you could do that without a business. You could do that with just being, I don't know, an independent salesperson.
Yeah.
So what is a business? What is a
You have
business?
to give something.
Okay,
You have
so
to give something and money comes in.
Okay, so a business is an exchange of goods. Now, back in the day when they were bartering, there
Yeah.
was no money. It was an exchange.
Yes.
Okay. Now, some people could have a business where they could upsell something better than what they have, and it's of benefit to the other person. Otherwise, the person wouldn't have swapped. Yeah. So business is an exchange.
Yes.
So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
So if you believe that a business is for an exchange, then you must believe that you have some form of certainty to give. So you don't open up a business, a real estate business, or some people do, and say, right, we've got value to give. Let's go and door knock 100 people and ask them if they want to sell. Asking someone if they want to sell is not value to give. How is that value to give? So, hey, do you want to sell? Hey, do you want to sell? Hey, do you want to sell? What are you actually giving when you're saying, do you want to sell? It's actually insane.
Okay, now as someone has built belief, being here 10 years, sometimes we forget the steps that we took to build belief. So along the way, I don't even know.
You haven't
and
forgotten.
I can't
Nobody's
But
forgotten.
what I'm saying is, did I call 100 people along the way? I did. So what separates me from the guy calling 100 people?
Nobody's saying don't call 100 people. Nobody's saying don't. I actually think you should. The opposite. I think you should call millions of people.
If you have something to give.
Here's my thing. You're saying that belief. You're saying, what is it? You're saying the people out there who are
I'm saying if you're looking at the whole real estate industry and they're saying call this many people, you'll get this many numbers, you'll convert to this.
Yes.
And then you go on Omar Abid's page and you see on any of our pages and we're saying
they don't say
different.
call this many people. They say leads and prospects. Okay, then. Well, I challenge you to use those words over the phone. Pick up the phone to the 100 people and say the truth. Hey, I just want to let you know right up front, you are a prospect and you are a lead and it is a numbers game. And my boss told me the more I call, the closer I am to a yes. Why don't you say the truth? You know why you don't say the truth? Because you know if you say that, it's no value. So what do? You come up with a secondary value. Hey, I broke a record down the road. If you want to sell in the future, let me know. And here's the thing. The deeper your belief of the value you want to give, the more value you'll find in the call, which means the better the call will be, which means the better numbers you'll impact, which means it's a numbers game just like you said, but not like you think. So what is belief? Belief is picking up the phone to 100 people saying, I'm going to call 100 people, every no is closer to a yes. Right. So now pick up the phone and do that. See how far that belief takes you. Now you're going to have people out there going, look at me. I'm doing 700 houses a month. I'm the number one in Australia, whatever. I'm killing it. I'm doing all these calls. Yeah, that's great. But your belief is if I call this many people will react. What I'm saying is you don't need to call that many people. What you can do is have a different belief prior to you making the call. So if my belief is the call's exceptional, I'm giving value, I'm going to lead with that first. In the first 10 seconds, I'm going to give that value. I'm going to give without expectation. The call's going to cut through. And if they like me over the phone and they connect with me, then that is a step in the right direction for me and them to have a relationship in the future. That is a different belief.
So if someone comes along to you, a co-agent, whatever the case may be, they come to you and they say, I'm speaking to people every day. I'm not really coming across that many listings.
What do you do before you call? What do you do before you call? What do you do before you call?
I know what I do.
So what did you do? What did you do with that guy? Okay, look, an example, practical example.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to unravel this belief thing because everyone thinks it's some type of mystery.
I got it because I'm here. I'm saying from the outside.
Okay, but what I'm saying is I get people from the outside look at it and say, that's strange, that's weird. I'm like, it's not strange and weird. You are doing it. You are exercising a belief before every call. It's just your belief sucks. Nobody cares how many numbers you've made.
So what belief would you substitute it with?
Well,
so if they're calling with the intent of I need an appointment or whatever what would you change it with?
It goes deeper than that. It's like, do I want to live my life calling 700 people and be the number one sales agent? What's your belief around that? What's your belief around relationships? What's your belief around
What was your belief
value?
to grow this business?
Well, you know that.
But what
do you think it was?
I'm curious. I want to know.
No, back to your situation.
Yeah.
You're calling people.
Yeah, I am.
Right? You call people all the time.
Yes.
Okay. Whether it's breaking into an area or whatever.
Yes.
Okay. So you're calling people. When you call those people, say in Blakehurst that call that you were telling me about, and the first point of call, when the person says he wants to sell, he actually said he wants to sell.
Yeah.
You called him with what?
Something to give, because he was looking at buying. So
Okay.
I addressed what he needs, which is
But you
buying
actually
first.
knew he was selling.
Yes.
You knew he wanted to sell.
Yes.
Okay, so your call
But
was...
if I didn't give him something, it's going to be very hard to make the call.
Okay, but if your call was to take something, wouldn't you have led with your selling?
Number one, I'd be very hesitant to make the call. That's why I think most people are nervous to make calls.
That's right.
But I get excited to make calls because I know it's so easy to give something.
Exactly.
Like I called a developer today, and he's finishing a duplex, and I know who he bought it off, and I said that he's nearing completion. I said I got a site for you. I didn't bring up his place, and I said to him, by the way, he mentioned, do you want to come around to my place? And I said, no, you bought it off, X company. I said that they deserve to get it back. I said, and I think they'll do a really good job. And then he started to insist, and then I just started thinking to myself. I got off the phone. I'm like, how do people go out there and make calls and like beg for appointments and things like that? With
it's not that they're begging for appointments. Like you get somebody, right? Like it's like this. Back to belief. Call somebody in. Let's start really obvious, okay? Give them $10,000 and say there's a street with 10 people in there. And what I want you to do is door knock that street and just give away that $1,000 to each person that you door knock. Even the person, now you got people who turn around and go, I'm in sales, I know exactly what to say. But even anybody who's not in sales doesn't have any trepidation or has total trepidation about calls and is nervous about connecting with people. And you give them that scenario.
I'd be the easiest door knock in their life.
Okay, so now they door knock, no issue. All of a sudden, door knocking strangers, all these limiting beliefs of I don't want to door knock, I don't want to do strangers. No, you don't want to make the call because you have a belief that what you are giving adds no value. And here's what gets me. Salespeople who know they have no value will tell you this. Call 100 people with no value.
And then if it doesn't work, call more.
And if it doesn't work, call more. Yeah. And then you've got sales agents who go,
and then they get flat.
I have no fear of rejection at all.
And then they feel deflated, and then they go to the lead agent, and the lead agent's putting more pressure on them, and then the whole thing becomes...
But even the lead agent starts saying, in sales, you got to be a hunter. You pick up the phone and you just call.
Rejection. What do you think of the whole rejection
I door knocked until my knuckles went red. I'm like, what is that? Like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
What you don't have to
How
do that.
little value was the things you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a representation of the value.
So when you're on Instagram and you're talking about belief, you're saying that the belief someone has about what they're saying or the belief of their future is wrong.
I'm saying in an instant, if you shift your belief, you can shift the value you think you have and you can improve the outcome.
So let's say you've now shifted your dialogue. And
prime example, and you know this, I'm in real estate, I start real estate, and no, real estate's not in my DNA, and I love real estate, and I just want to connect with people, and it's a joy and all these cliches. No, I never liked real estate. I didn't like houses, any of that. All right, nothing like that. Okay, but I ended up in there after being a professional soccer player. That's where I ended up. Okay, so I'm now turn up to the place, and I'm shy, and this guy says to me, this manager at the time, he says, listen. Make rejection your best friend. First thing he said to me. And I'm like,
is there merit to that at all?
Why would I want rejection to be my best friend? Why would you want somebody to tell you no to something that you have to give? Why would you even want that? Why would you start with that belief? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you say, I'm going to speak to 100 people today and every single person's going to like me first and foremost because sales is a demonstration of my great character. And then I will build any service they need off the back of that. Now, here's the key. What do they actually need? Not what you assume they actually need. So for example, we go into the street, I get out of the car. He says, go door knock that lady. He's waiting on the other side of the road. I see a couple of kids. I see them standing next to a car. They look a little bit rough, these kids, okay? So I walk past them. I'm shaking, nervous, walk up to the door. This lady, right from the door, screams, get off my lawn. I turn around, look at the car, look at the kids. Kids are kind of having a bit of a chuckle. And then the guy, you know what he says to me? He goes, go back in. Make rejection your best friend. That's all I can hear him saying. Anyway, so I walk into the place. I door knock again. She opens up. I step back. She starts yelling. I turn around in an instant. I'm like, what is the first thing I can give her of value? I want to prove to her I'm not here to take anything. You know what I said to her? I said, hey, I just want to let you know, those kids down there, they're having a bit of a laugh around cars. I saw them next to some of the cars in the street. Looks as though they're scratching it or whatever it may be. I just wanted to let you know. I was actually here to tell you about a sale down the road, but I saw that. You know what she said to me? She said, where? She looked outside. She said, thank you so much for letting me know about that. And we kicked off a conversation. The first point of value was 100% value. Even if I had told her...
Where'd you get that belief from?
Well, the belief was service, caring. I tell you what the belief is. Forget the outward service. The belief is I want to be liked. I don't want to be disliked. I don't want to turn up to someone's house. You know, my dad used to take me to people's houses and I go into the house and my dad says, if they offer you something, don't accept it. My dad will turn around and say, never say that you want to stay at somebody's house too long. My dad will put these values in me. So I'm sitting there going, I don't want to be here. And I started to work that out. So my point is, now if I door knocked 100 people in that street and said the same thing, what would be my return rate on at least the first bit of the conversation being, okay, you're giving me value here, almost 100%, correct?
Yes.
Now flip it. Hey, I want to let you know, I want to see if you're selling. What's my return rate? Maybe 20? How many people sell within a year? 2,500 people in a marketplace, 150 sell, 5%.
Yeah.
Half that again, or done half that, 30 of them sell, 2.5% or 2% if my maths is right, of 2,500 people.
It's a needle in a haystack.
Close to 2%, yeah?
Yeah.
So I know my conversion rate.
Yeah.
So I then door knock and I say, okay, I want to let you know there's a record in the street. How many of the people in the street care? Conversion rate might increase, but still there are people who don't care.
Correct.
My wife is bathing the kids. She's sitting there. She comes out. She's had a long day. Some guy knocks on the door and says a record happened down the road. I don't care.
Okay. Well, we've just broken a record. We'll release that soon, but $6 million in a suburb where the median price is 1.7. How would you then explain that to the whole suburb?
But here's the thing. If you've built a relationship off what I call the first base, which is giving value right up front, right before you start, then calling someone and letting them know about a $6 million sale is of benefit them because it directly or indirects the value of the home. But that's someone you know. But randomly picking up the phone and
What
saying,
if you're new and you don't know anyone there?
but everybody knows someone within an
So
area
the
where
first
they
few
start.
people of the suburbs that you broke into, how did you build a relationship with the first
How
few
did we
people
do
that
it?
you meet?
You were there. You were there in
I'm saying
Lagana.
pre-me, Carlingford.
What did we do?
In Carlingford?
What did you do?
We found? I remember Debbie Cladis. We found.
Yeah.
We met Debbie Cladis.
Yeah.
And we just had one. We had one thing that we agreed on, which was we felt that the suburb was everything was selling for pretty cheap. We'd have conversations that in Lugano houses would sell for 1.5, and in Riverwood they'd sell for 1.5. It made no sense.
Yep.
And then we shared that belief, and then she started telling everyone that we those guys think that. And then eventually you listed a property in Lugano, Bottle Brush.
Yeah.
That came through someone that already trusted you from out of the area.
Okay.
And then eventually we called Debbie and we said, hey, by the way, we've got this that's
Yeah.
come on.
Yes. But what
And
about
we're going to try and buck the trend.
Okay, great. So in the street when that property was listed, what's the first
We tried
point
to give
of value?
I remember I personally door knocked and cold called Bottle Brush and said to everyone that there's going to be cars in the street and there'll be disruptions. I apologize in advance. If there's any issues, just call me.
Because that is the first thing that somebody's
going
thinking.
to be actually thinking.
Who's
And then
moving in?
When it sold, we told everyone who's going to move in. That it's not going to be tenanted; it'll be occupied.
Yeah,
and they're
so we
really
let
young
people
family.
know who's going to move in before the actual price.
Yeah,
because the
100%.
price is a secondary conversation. The assumption in real estate is they think that everybody wants to know, okay, that property sold for this. Yes, they do want to know that. But, they want to know that from someone that they trust, not from somebody who's just, what's the intention of why you're telling me that? Instantly, they're going to have what's called that reptile that blocks them
Yeah,
being
like
a
why are
human.
you actually?
Why are you telling
this?
me about that sale? Oh, because you want me to sell. No, I'm not selling. No, actually, I never called you about what you're not selling. So now you're in a reactive conversation, right? That's like knocking on somebody's door and you want to give them a gift. And the first thing they say to you is, get off my lawn. It sounds like you're here to cause me trouble. And then you are arguing with them about how you're not. And that's really what the real estate industry does. So I'm not having a go at anything. I'm saying there's merit calling 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 people. You call 1 million people. The goal is to give as much value to as many people and impact many parts of their life as possible.
Is it fair to say then, if you have the right belief, measuring how many people you speak to and everything else it will enhance your business?
When you say measuring how many people you speak to, no.
I.e., if I have the strongest belief ever and I say the greatest things on the phone ever, but I call 5 people a day, as opposed to calling 80 people a day.
Well, that means that you've got a gift of value that you're not giving to enough people.
Yeah, I'm
But
doing
then-
the wrong thing.
But then the question is, why are you only calling 5 people? Back to, you don't believe you have value to add. That's why. There's 2 types of people, in this type of sales organization, in sales in general, okay? There's the ones who think that they're like lions and tigers and they go out, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to hunt. I'm going to call anybody. I don't care if I get rejected. I'll just make the 150
Yeah, I
calls.
used to think that.
Yeah, there's those people.
Yeah.
And that's great. There's admiration there to a certain degree. Then there's a second type of people who say, well, actually, I'm not going to make calls, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Both of them agree on one thing. Both of them don't really feel like they have that much value to give. One of them just will make enough calls, looking for enough things, and eventually will get them.
Yep.
And then the other one turns around and just won't make the calls because they don't believe they have value.
Yep.
So if that person who's saying, I only call 5 people, really what they're saying is, I don't want to make calls because I don't truly believe I have value to give. Back to the analogy.
Yep.
Here's $1,000. Go door knock the neighbor. Tell them that they've got that $1,000. Do they do it? Do they go and give that $1,000 away?
Easily.
Do they hesitate?
No.
Okay, so full belief.
Yes.
And that's what triggers frequency. That's what triggers an exchange of energy, a transfer of energy. So when people say, oh, you talk about belief, I'm like, I talk about deliberate action of what your intention is to then determine what value you give in each interaction that you have. That's a big difference.
What's the there's a bit of a trend that we do,
Yeah.
which is we all have a number, and
What's
we say
that?
it consistently, like a month. We say it consistently, we write it consistently, you send it to us consistently, we talk about it a lot.
Let me ask you a question before we get into that.
Yeah.
When you are dominating, what are the things you do that work really well for you? And you're dominating most of the time. Like sometimes you're doing this, like you're doing this much a month or that much a month. Really, it comes down to you have so much value to give and there's so many more people you can impact.
Yeah.
So many more.
Yeah, I'm not impacting enough.
Well, you will,
yeah.
right? But you've got that value. So when you are impacting people really well and having your greatest month, what is it that you're doing?
I'm very deliberate. That
Deliberate about
a
what?
few things. I remember back in the day, if there was something really good that happened in the suburb, like we got a really good result in Illawong Street. I remember Paula's house, number 5, Illawong, sold for 1,680 at the time. It was a really strong result. I remember I was a little bit slow to get the letters out that the street know and everything else. And I remember you got pretty annoyed that it went out very slow. And I realised later on, now as I've built a team and everything, I realised it's annoying because it's such good news. How can you not be excited to share it?
But why do you think people either react slowly or forget things?
They
or
either
miss
don't
things?
think it's value to give, or they don't know how to communicate
And
it.
which means, if they don't think they have value or they don't know how to communicate.
I think there's 3 things. The first thing is the way I communicate, underpinned by SUK. So we've covered that before, but SUK is basically leading with the other person's self-interest, not yours. No one cares about yours. No one cares if you're going to be in the street. No one cares about any of that.
What did Bradley
I did-
say? What did Bradley say when someone forgets an iPad? And we'll talk about Bradley in a second. What did he say when someone forgets an iPad? What it really is.
Their frequency's off.
Frequency's off.
Yeah.
So
So
then-
when I'm dominating, I'm in a frequency where I don't even have to think that much.
Exactly. And when you're dominating and you're in a frequency you don't have to think that much, what do you believe the future's going to be?
Oh, I think it's unbelievable. It was the analogy you told me to. Whenever you start losing belief, it's like you and your team think that the next day you go outside and you pick up your letterbox, you're going to see a fine for 50 grand, as opposed to when you're in strong belief and your frequency strong, it's like you're going to the letterbox and you've had to pick up a lottery ticket for 50 grand.
Yes.
They're 2 different things. So if you're transferring to your team or to your owners or to your buyers or to your marketplace that tomorrow is going to be better than today, your frequency is
Yeah,
unbelievable.
but you think your belief is the value that's coming into your life
Oh,
tomorrow
it's
is going to be great.
yeah.
Okay, so what if you had the same belief that the value that's coming into the person that you're calling's life is going to be great? How do you find that value, that conduit, that connection, and how do you then transfer it? And if you do that well enough and you demonstrate your good character,
What if you're at a company that tells you to call and ask for free market appraisals?
well, it would be the same thing that happened at my company when I was there, when I first started before I opened Oz
Is that
Realty.
why you took off?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I thought I wanted to do what I wanted to do, because wherever I was, I would have the people saying to me, this is what we need you to do. But that's okay. It's not because the people that are in your organization are no good. It's because they're not in tune with the right frequency that matches the tune of the seller. I'll give you a really good example. I saw this thing once where they're having competitions between real estate companies about who can make the most phone calls or something.
What do you mean, for who?
I don't know, like different companies, some come up with something or
Or between the agents?
something like that. I don't know what it was. I get it. It's like a competition and I want to drive all this sort of stuff. It's fine. Like it's going to drive some form of energy.
For the agents.
But
What does that have to do with the owner?
but Apple and Samsung don't get together and say, let's see who can sell the most phones. What's the consumer care about that? They're too busy worried. Apple is focused on how the consumer presses the button. To get into the detail of the people you're serving, you've got to get into their life. You've got to get into their movements. You've got to get into their thinking. You've got to get into their concerns. You've got to get right in there. And when you're right in there, you can see everything. So it's impossible to be looking out here of how many deals I'm going to be doing while you're in someone's world at the same time. And if you can get into someone's world, then guess what happens? You have value to give. And if you have value to give, your belief goes up. And if your belief and frequency goes up, you transfer that energy. That's what you do. You do it all the time.
I think this is a good one too. A lot of, I get asked sometimes, sometimes you're in flow and you're in that great frequency. What are some of the things that take you outside of that frequency?
Oh, there's heaps of things.
The Bradley likes to say humble, grateful giving.
Yeah.
So the second you're not humble, grateful giving, the tap turns off.
Yeah, yeah.
Share the same sentiment.
Exactly.
Charles Stubbs.
Yeah, what it is you're outside, like in a blinkered horse.
Yeah.
When a horse has blinkers on,
Yeah.
all they can see is what's in front of them.
Yeah, they're just in a tunnel.
Yeah. So there's studies on this. You see, like if you're skiing and you look to the left, there's a high chance you're going to go into the tree, even for a second. You can only see what's in front of you because what's in front of you is the picture. You can see I need to turn right, I need to turn left. You focus clearly. Anything that knocks you off that. Now, it could be something good. It could be something negative. It could be something positive. It could be, hey, let's say, skiing analogy. You're flying down. Omar, you're skiing brilliantly well. Oh, thank you. Bang, into the tree.
Over celebration.
Omar, you need to adjust your legs and how you're skiing. Too much information. Gone. So, like I said to you once, you're on a tightrope. Belief is like a tightrope. You build extreme momentum. Once you start running on that tightrope, you get momentum. You're speeding 100 miles an hour on that tightrope. Now, to you in your head, it's not a tightrope anymore. You are flying. You cannot see anything. But if one person comes in from the side and your belief isn't as strong as it needs to be, suddenly that tightrope turns into a tightrope again.
100%.
Okay? And then to build it again, you need to go back
All
up
of a sudden you're wobbling and you find it hard. Then how do you get back on?
how you get back on is back again. So what are my forward steps is writing out the vision of the future. So the first thing that will happen if you came off a tightrope is you start to think silly things like this. Maybe it was too high. Maybe it was this. That's overthinking again.
Yeah.
So how I do it is I go back into on the tightrope, running at speed, flying, momentum building, everything's great.
Look, I know how I do it. We write this
How
down.
do you do it?
Yeah, I write it down. I put it in my notes.
How do you write
I
it down?
text it. First, I just handwrite it. Then I put it in my notes. I pin the top of my notes. I then text whoever, let's say my team, they all get a text at 9 a.m., at 3 p.m., at 7 p.m. I have an alarm as well. Got that from John Halliday. Got an alarm that goes off 3 times a day. So I'm seeing it every single place that I can possibly look. It's in my room.
So you're deliberate about predicting
Yes,
the future.
100%, yeah.
Yeah,
And
so-
it's funny, whenever I stop looking at that, I step out of flow.
Exactly. It's actually really simple.
Very simple, yeah.
It's extremely simple.
Yeah.
Extremely.
So the symptoms of going out is you stop being humble, grateful, giving. Let's say you're not grateful for what you have. You
Anything.
You talk out of line to anyone, and you stop giving.
I'll tell you one way to build it really quickly, practically. Because it could be people out there going, oh, I'm going to write a vision of the future in present tense. Oh, what is that? You might not be at the belief where you think that works. And if you're skeptical about it, then you're not going to do it, which means it's not going to work. So let's go into value add, yeah? So instead of telling everybody out there, right, this is what we do, let's peel it back to try and get that momentum, right? Something they could do right now. Here's something they could do. They could pick up their phone in the morning and they could text every person in their organization or every person that positively impacted their day the day before, in a detailed, orientated format. So for example, hey mom, that podcast you did with me yesterday was awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you so much for sitting with me. I thought that was great. Okay, positively orientated format. Nothing coming back to me. I don't want anything out of this message.
You're just releasing good energy.
And I'm 100% detailed into what they actually did. Not thank you, Imam, for yesterday. That's disingenuous. Thank you for what? Thank you, Caitlin. You were awesome with what you did. I really appreciate how you found that fix for that app. We're gonna smash it again today, right?
Or even as simple as appreciate you staying back when you need to, like something like that.
Whatever. It's got to be something that's detailed
yeah,
orientated. It wouldn't even be thank you for staying back, because that's like one of those people who probably yelled at someone the night before and then the next day they're trying to fix it. I don't mean that. I mean to be detail orientated. So you can pick up the phone. Now, when you start to do that, the second you start to do that, you're going to get a positive reaction back.
100%.
So once you get a positive reaction back, your state increases. Once your state increases, now you're more likely to be able to see a clearer future.
100%.
Now go and write something out because you're in the right state.
Yeah.
So that's a very
It's
easy.
the fastest way to build belief.
That's the fastest way to build belief, because sometimes you need energy to believe what you're actually believing.
Yeah, I remember, like, let's say we're out of flow, whatever the case may be. I used to say, like, find the first thank you. So in the morning, so let's say someone said it on their house 2 days ago, call them, see if when they're not expecting your call them.
Yeah.
Thank someone, your team, whatever the case may be.
That's why-
the fastest way to build belief. What's the best way to maintain it?
Maintaining it is the same way. So it's
Consistently
deliberate.
look at everything. Consistently look at what you write.
What's that old saying? People have a shower every day or twice a day. Just because you did it twice a day doesn't mean tomorrow you don't have a shower.
100%. Yeah.
So are you deliberate about what you're doing? How do you build belief? How do you go to the next level of beat? You need a consistency in your frequency to be able to build to the next level. Like anything that I've ever done has been like that. But look, there are some agents. Do you remember this? Do you remember when I said to you, I want you to, and I'll never name names, right? But I said, I want you to meet somebody.
Yeah.
And I said, you were telling me you want to be this great agent, whatever. And at the time, there was this agent who was looking to basically partner it with us.
Yeah.
And I had no intention of going down that path, right? It just wasn't.
You did it more as a lesson for me.
It wasn't for us.
Yeah.
So I called you and I said, Imam,
Yeah. We did
this
a
guy.
meeting.
And then you said to me, wow, the numbers that person's doing.
Oh yeah, I was in full admiration mode. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's exactly the numbers that I want to do.
Which I think is excellent, them doing that. They'd
Yeah,
go to another level if they did it this way. Anyway, so we went there, we sat down. What did the person say to you when you asked him?
He said, I look at my kids and I can't even see them. And he goes, I've got a call sheet in the car and I'm behind, and like it was literally shaking.
And he said, "You
Like,
don't
so
want."
it's uncomfortable. He goes, you don't want my life.
He said, "You don't want my life."
He goes, trust me, you don't want my life. And I'm like, what?
Right. But see, in the papers,
You'd think I want
when he
that
was
life.
promoting number one of this and number one of that, well, you're number one of everything but control of your actual life, of which you just admitted you don't want.
No, God, no. And then fast forward now, what? It's been 4 years, like Ibi in the company does those numbers, and he's like, I speak to him maybe 3-4 times a day, and we're having a laugh. So I think and it's interesting because Ibi would have had the belief of, whatever it takes, just get the numbers, and now it's more, you can get those numbers easily.
But just think about what we're saying, man. Get the numbers. Listen. Me and my wife are at home. I got my 3 kids with me, okay? My 3 kids. We're having the time of our lives. We decide one day we want to sell, okay? My wife turns around and starts saying, I need to get the house ready, I need this. We're having conversations. We finally called an agent now. Now, I pick up the phone to this agent and I hear him on a podcast talking about, it's all about getting the numbers. I want to get the numbers. I'm number one of this and I'm number one of that. And I'm all this nonsense, right? So all of a sudden...
But it is also a measurement of how many people you're helping.
I know, but you're not selling potatoes. You're selling someone's dreams and vision, and it's not a house. You're selling somebody's belief of the... People say to me, belief, Oz Realty. What's this starts with belief? Do you know for somebody to get up and move from here to here, take their children, shift their life, move...
Of course, massive belief, yeah.
You're talking about people, like we know people who have been in relationships, out of relationships, they've got kids in the house, they're getting up, they're moving their entire family, they're shifting their whole life. Do you know how much faith and belief they need in the future to do that?
Oh, massive.
Okay, so if somebody steps in with the belief that, okay, I'm a blessing in people's life, I'm going to give more than I could take, I'm going to light up people's lives, I'm going to create a record outcome, I'm going to get the maximum for them, I understand what the maximum means, and they go in there with that intent, and they connect with them, and they're in tune with them, and they help them do that, then for the rest of that agent's life, they're in memory of that person, or they're in the memory of that person. So if you understand things like that, if you see it like that, then go and make 1,000 calls with that intention. And then when you become number one, you'll be the number one of your own soul before you are of some real estate industry. And you merge those two together. But that's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying that, you asked me what belief is at the start. It's a vision of the future that improves someone's life for them and their family that they can see and that they bring into the present and start taking action from. So how is that weird? That's not weird. What's weird is somebody having a vision of the future that they're going to do 50 calls a month and they're going to go home and they're going to give the best to the people on the phone, their energy, and the worst to their family at home. That is weird to me. So I'm not understanding the whole weird part. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What's this app?
What did you do? What did you do? What did we do when we were in Lugano?
Yeah.
What are some of the things we said, right, in Lugano that you thought at the time was really strange that when I told you, because you came from a real estate company and they were telling you do this and do that. You came into this place.
I remember I was on my first open house with you and I heard you say to a buyer, you said, have you seen at the property at Grandview Crescent, it's open at 2:00, and we were standing at another house in Illawong Street. And you're like, you should go and see that. That probably fits your criteria more. And I looked at you, I was like, huh? Why are you mentioning another agent's listing? And then I asked you after, I was like, why are you mentioning another agent's listing? And you're like, it was like, if I'm in that situation and they go home at the end of all those open homes and they think back who was the best agent that I met, they're going to go, that Omar was unbelievable, whatever the case may be. If your intent is to then get something out of it, you have a higher chance of getting something by speaking like that than you do without. So the first thing was every single thing was their frame of reference. The second thing was we had a common message throughout the suburb. I find it's less about how you deliver the message and more about the message itself. So we consistently...
What did you do before we go there? What did you do? Remember Paula? She called me one day. And she said...
I still think Paula wanted to go with me, but anyway.
Probably did. Yeah. She probably did. She called me that day, but she didn't. Um, she kind
I
of
ended up here anyway, so thank you, Paul.
Anyway, so what happened was is Paula called me and she said, "There's this kid. He's only 18 years old, and you should speak to him, and I want him to help on the listing." Correct? How many houses had you sold?
None. I was in real estate for 4 weeks.
Okay, now what are the things you did
Yeah, like
for
literally.
Paula? Yeah, what are the literal things you did when you were 18 years old with zero experience? What are the things you did to get that reaction from Paula?
I remember calling like 350 people in like 2 days. I was in the office till like 9 o'clock, and then I'd call Paula and say, "I just called these buyers. I'm trying to find someone, and whatever it may be." I literally called like 350 people, and I'd tell Paula that I'm calling him. Then I'd like text her at like 9 o'clock at night saying, "Just finish the list. I'll try again tomorrow." Then I got a buyer inspection and literally got a welcome red carpet. Sick, but yeah, I speak.
No, but it's all right.
My intent was like I just want to.
Well, it was because Paula loved it.
Yeah, I wanted to make Paula so happy that she thought she had the best experience ever.
Okay.
I laid a carpet. I got wine glasses and I put them on the dining table. I
Yeah.
even got I had so much blinkered belief that I printed out a contract and put it on the dining table when the buyers came through, because I thought that I'll get them to sign a contract.
Yep.
And I wanted Paula to see how much belief I had in the house, and
Yep.
I loved that house
Yeah,
so much.
and you didn't even have the listing.
No. Like, I mean, I had the authority, but not like I had a 2-week agreement.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but you did. You kind of. Yeah.
Like I had the listing.
Okay. Yeah.
And could I have gotten after that? I don't know.
But my point is, Paula didn't care how many houses you had sold.
no,
What she cared about
was that I cared.
was she cared about her next move.
Yes.
She cared about the effort, the care, the intention of the
Yes.
person facilitating that move.
100%.
Okay. Now, why then wouldn't you take that same concept and apply it to every stranger? I'll tell you why. Because people are going to say, but what could I possibly give them? So you asked me about how we got into the area. I
Yeah.
just asked you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did we do?
We gave to everyone.
Okay. And what didn't we do that people would think we would have done?
Like soccer sponsorships will sponsor you, but we don't want any recognition.
Yep. And we never really did that in Lugano at all. Didn't we? Remember we were talking about.
For like 3 years later.
So we said
yeah.
no at the start. No letterbox shops.
Yeah. No letterbox drops, no stuff with your face on it, no mail cards, no signboards with faces on them or whatever. If anything, we would do, even during campaigns, I remember, we'd have like small things. Like we'd have a photo shoot for like 10 photos and we weren't supposed to do a video. And then we'd be there at the right time and we'd see the sun and we'd be like, we need to come back for this shoot. We need to come back when the sun is right at the back. We would then reschedule the shoot, plus add a video, plus do another like 25 photos, and we'd pay for them. Like we'd be like,
Yeah, but before all of that, when we're in the area, we're not doing any letterbox shops on purpose. We're not putting anything into people's mailboxes
we
yet.
just back to like 4 or 5 connectors. That's it, and we just kept
Because
kept
we
it.
built.
And then anything that happened that we all believed in. So for example, if there was a sale that happened that was cheap, or there was a process that was run that was flawed, we would make it very clear to those same people which also saw that as flawed. We'd come to a very strong agreement about it, and it would be a very consistent thing.
The conversation is basically, is there a problem in this area? Can we solve it? Can we give enough information and value? And how do we go about it?
We got asked how long does it really take and how much work does it actually take?
What's your market? How many people are you impacting in Lugano out of 100% of people that sell?
70.
70%. 70%, right? So 70% of people in Lugano use you for their life-changing moment. They use you. 70%.
Yeah, very grateful
Okay.
for that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we are very grateful, but we're also giving a lot of value, and we're going about it the right way, right? So for you to get it to 70%, did you cold call? How often do you cold call Lugano?
Very rare. Maybe a few times recently, but I haven't, not really, no. I wouldn't call them cold calls because it was weird. I'd just tell people that there's going to be cars in the street. So
Yeah, but at the start, how often did you call them at the
Nothing,
start?
never.
What was the rule?
No cold calling, no door knocking, no letterbox drops, no mail cards. And I remember saying to myself, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to talk to people.
What am I supposed to do? Yeah, and And so what we're supposed to do is be certain in the value that we're giving, right? So what did we start to train you on when you first came in?
What to get? Sorry, back to the time thing. Because I remember I asked you, how long does it take to break into an area? And you go to me, the second you start looking at the clock, like you won't be breaking into anything.
Yeah.
So if you try and measure the time, you've already lost belief. Because that means you don't think it's going to happen in a moment of time.
And how many people have asked you that have worked with you over the years about
Everyone.
time? Yeah.
Everyone asks.
Yeah, that question.
It's like there's a ticking. It's like there's some limit on the time. Like it should happen in a year or 3 years or 5 years. I think it'll happen as fast as you believe it'll happen. Like if you believe it'll happen in 2 years, you can do it in 2 years.
People ask me, how long is it going to
Yeah.
take? How strong is your belief? Oh, you're talking about belief again. I'm like, well,
Yeah, like Michael opened an office in Sylvania, and all of a sudden there's market share in the Shire.
Michael
He-
is a
He's a belief
Michael would
magnet.
Michael would say to me, "What's this belief stuff?" I'm like, "All over you, my friend.
Yeah.
All over you."
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's funny. He used to bring up the whole belief stuff and say it's a bit like eccentric or whatever it may be. And then the guy's the most belief I've ever seen. Man, like, just thinks about a suburb and all of a
But
sudden
not
he's
only
dominant
that,
there.
but Michael cares about the person. He's intentional. He's deliberate.
Yeah.
He knows his product. He knows what he's saying.
100%.
He's
And he's such phenomenal value. It's like silly, like it's crazy.
Don't you think, like you're talking about how long does something take? How strong is your belief?
100%.
Okay, now go look at a clock face, and stand and look at it for 1 minute. See if you can last the whole minute.
Absolutely no chance.
Okay, so
Be the slowest minute of my life,
how
yeah.
long is a minute? Depends who's involved, what your experience is of that minute. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And I found too, anything where I've lacked belief in, it has been the slowest part of my growth. So, for example, like Ibi, for example, great example, has built a massive team, big business. He's on to
No, he's
more and more.
built.
It's an
He's
absolute
not
machine.
even near where he's going to build.
Yeah.
He said that to me the other day. I built a massive team, and I said, "Oh, so you've got 5,000 people in your team?" And he goes, "Oh, no. Okay, how many do you have?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't want to say." That's exactly right. Let's get back to work. Impact.
And that's belief.
Impact.
I remember you told him the end of last year that by the end of 2025, there'll be 50 people in the business.
Yeah,
And
47.
47. And like he's pretty close to that.
But you know what's great about Ibi? I'll tell you something that's great about Ibi, and these are all the top guys, yeah? I'll tell you something that's great about Ibi. When that bloke is locked onto something and he can see, if he's a great manifester, when he can see clearly what's the outcome, he is an absolute manifester of that. Like, boom, he's going to start. He gets locked in. He's very blinkered. In fact, quick story about Ibi. Ibi comes on board, and we had to make a rule that him and I can't talk to each other until Thursday or Friday. Now, the rule is we can't talk to each other at all unless it's under a minute. Do you know why? Because we distract each other. So what was happening is Ibi would come in blinkered, and then
You just go through these long-winded debates.
yeah, he'll turn up on Thursday and we'll start having lunch, and then we'll start talking, and then you'd find that
He's
frequency,
knocked off his
the
vision,
energy starts to change. So, I think that. So you yourself, like, do you remember, like, when you're breaking into the area and you ended up meeting Bradley in that, but like, it's the same concept. You have to believe, you have to believe that what somebody is going through in their life matters to them before it matters to you.
Yes.
You have to believe, how does it matter to them?
I also find it a bit funny too how some people try and...
Is that you're looking at your phone to like
everyone...
and do some dollar productive activity?
course, your
What's that
favourite.
term about
Have you never said that?
in my life?
Do you believe there's some merit to it at all? That some things you can do can
Again,
Does anyone help
dollar
you build,
productive is effectively saying I'm going to get something out of this if I do it.
Does anyone help you build belief?
I think about the most impact I can make.
So
That's what I think. But listen to this, right? So
so if you saw me changing a floor plan,
yeah,
do you think that's escapism or that's dollar productive?
I think that's impact. Forget dollar productive. If you change the floor plan and the floor plan is of significance to the owner because they're certainty driven and they're very detail orientated, and you go out of your way to do that to them, I think that energy reverberates 10 times more than you making a call to someone who's potentially selling.
That's true. Whenever I've been directly involved in the detail.
The words dollar productive carry a really, really, like, again, say the truth. Pick up the phone. Let's do a real estate sentence. Hello, my name's Omar. I'm calling from XYZ. I just want to let you know up front, this is a lead generating call. You are on my pipeline. I'm prospecting you, and I have earmarked you through my CRM as a dollar productive call. How long do you think that call will last?
Yeah,
Okay, so the call you're making is a lie then. You're not saying the truth. That's what I'm trying to say. And so when new people come into the business, they one of two traits. They're the hunters who don't care about the reaction, and they're the ones who care about the reaction that could be fantastic, but don't pick up the call because the industry has not taught them that they're there to give value. The industry has taught them they're there to take. And therefore you lose great people in this business because they do not know the point of value they're giving. We've got Cecily now starting. She's a lawyer. Parents are doctors.
Amazing, yeah.
She's got value to give. If she doesn't know the value to give, she's not going to be one of those people who picks up the phone and just starts making calls to be some type of hunter that's going to not care about somebody hanging up in her face. She's got high self-worth. She's got high value. She wants to be of service. I'm not saying that these agents making 100 calls don't have high value. In fact, they have so much high value, they don't even hear somebody telling them, whatever, get lost. So my thing is that. My thing is...
I find too, anytime anyone asks you anything, like a practical question, you bring it back to belief. So for example, if someone asks you when you're peak agent, whatever it may be, what did your day look like an ideal day? That's a typical real estate podcast question. Like what did Omar B do as a real estate agent? Because I remember your day and I emulated a version of it.
Well, sometimes I get up at 9 a.m.
That's it.
What do you do? Let's look at what you do, but then let's go a layer deeper. Like think of life like an onion. Keep peeling.
I keep it very simple. I move in the morning. I train.
Yeah.
I eat clean throughout the day. That's just the thing. I know you have a thing against that, and you believe waffles make you leaner, but anyway.
Clean without day. You were going to some shop and you were buying...
Let's talk about the cheese now.
Like what type of grown man goes and cuts up his little cheese and then puts it on a table and determines this is what I'm going to eat?
If I put it on a plate for you...
How do you think about that, man?
I'd feel very good about it.
I don't know. Cut up your
my energy feels...
You know the most annoying thing to me in the middle of the day
if my energy is great,
listen.
I get to get the maximum from my owners.
Do you know what the most annoying thing to me in the world is?
Does Lagana want... Do people that I'm selling for want me to eat burgers throughout the day?
Listen,
I don't think so.
Do you know eating is the biggest waste of time on the planet?
It is. That's why I only eat once throughout the day.
It's too much thinking to eat.
But you have some weird behaviors around food, which we won't get into.
on.
But anyway, no, I move in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I meet my team in the morning.
Yeah.
Which even the sound of that, I know probably sounds real estate, whatever.
No, there's nothing wrong with what's
meet
sounding
them,
real estate.
I'm on
real estate is like an area.
Yes, I know. And then my day's into thirds. The first third of the day is anything that's... I actually don't know which one this is.
Go on.
Did I miss something?
Do you hold a briefcase when you go to appointment?
Barry comes every day. Barry, I love you, but that briefcase, bro. We're not lawyers. What's in there? Anyway, no, the first third.
You are a smidgen away from standing in front of a home and saying, "Come with me, I'm going to walk you through it."
There's absolutely no chance. No. Would I drive a Porsche into the house? Maybe. But I know
Michael Luck. We'll leave that only to the guys who can pull it off, like Michael Luck.
Yeah. Anyway, first third of the day, I'm on the phone to anything that's we call it hottest to coldest. So if there's a
what's hottest to coldest mean? Tell me.
Whatever's the highest level of importance of the people that I'm working for. So
highest level of importance.
Yeah. So let's say there's an offer on the table and that needs to be brought forward.
Okay,
there's a tender that needs to be brought forward. There's anything. So I normally call all my owners,
people who need you most.
The people that need me most, I speak to the first thing.
The people that need you most.
Yes. Once that's done,
or the most dollar productive course.
Yes.
Which one is it?
It's the same thing. And then the middle of
I don't think it's the same thing, but continue.
The second third of the day is I don't know what the word is for it, but is acquisition, like finding business.
Yeah.
I just said that just to G up.
Yeah.
But no, the second third of the day is Can we say prospecting in Oz Realty?
if you want.
Yeah, prospecting.
Yeah.
And then the last third of the day is at appointments. That's it.
Okay.
That's what you used to do the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except
okay.
yeah, they used to have breakfast every morning at the Little General for some reason with your AirPods in and a diary, and I don't know what you used to do. Your diary was weird. All I used to say is you used to write on this diary and have your breakfast, and then I'd come in and look over in your diary, and all it said was like the number for the year, which I can't remember what it was at the time, but say X million GCI and this many managements. That's it. And you used to just write 2 things every single day, like a psychopath.
Yeah. Well, you
used to write only 2 things.
It's simple messaging. It's simple messaging. That's another thing that's important. It's simple messaging. But like,
So if you're watching this and you have a goal, do you strip it back as simple and possible and write the exact same thing every single day?
this is what I believe.
But
I believe if I asked you what you had for breakfast 2 days ago, unless you're a routine driven person, you may not remember.
Yeah.
Do you know what human means in Arabic? How do you say it in Arabic?
San.
Yeah. What does that mean?
I should know.
To forget.
San. Yeah, yeah.
To forget. Yeah.
You didn't know you know this.
Yeah. Well, God created us with the ability to forget. Why? So we don't what? If you can't forget things, then you hold on to everything. Correct?
Oh, this is getting deep.
But
yeah.
correct?
Yeah. I feel like I'm on the Joe Rogan podcast.
No, but do you?
But I do forget.
Well,
yeah.
for everybody out there.
Yeah,
let's make it real simple.
But what are you getting at?
Well, it's made to forget, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we're made to forget as human beings. If we're made to forget and we're given 6 messages, what are the odds of us remembering all 6? Okay.
Very little.
But
Is that why everyone writes goals at the end of the year, writes a whole bunch and do none of them?
That's why when you go to these
New Year's Eve,
you're
whatever.
writing all these notes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There will be someone out there that remembers maybe one thing from this.
Oh,
and
like the conferences and stuff,
Yeah,
and you see
maybe-
these pages of notes. Yeah.
Correct. So we're made to forget, but there are things called anchor moments. So if you go into someone's life and I ask you, Imam, tell me about a time on your 21st birthday, you might remember that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's an anchor moment, right? Same when someone's selling a home, that's an anchor moment, right? So messaging, simplification of messaging has to be made relative to how we function as humans. And the word human, there are cultural things.
That's true. I found, if you really think about it, I just realized everyone that's had these, because
Talk about the halftime meetings. What do we talk about?
Before I get to that, because having one foot in the real estate industry every now and then, just for pure
There's nothing
entertainment.
wrong with the real estate industry.
I know, but seeing what's
there probably is,
Yeah, seeing what information is available. There's this big thing about how to goal set. So it's like, let's say you did 30 sales the year before, you apply like normal growth, and you go, all right, well, we'll do 45 this year. That's realistic or whatever. But I found with us, if you look at say Hanny, mechanic, 2 years later, 70, 80 sales. Ibi from cold start, joining like as in new business, no profile, listing like 40 properties a month, 50 properties a month, whatever. Michael Lark, we didn't even want to say the numbers the guy was doing within 30 days. You go Josh from not being an agent to hitting his target. Daniel, complex sellouts. James K, building a business, every single person went from like 0 to 100. We all did that because I look back and I go, was that purely just belief? Did we just choose one message? How come we all have exponential growth, but I find most of the real estate industry is like every year we'll go like up by like 10 sales. Because we're very fortunate with that. Like we've all.
I saw one guy once.
Well, look at the business.
I saw one guy once, and he said to me, he rang me up, and he said, "Hey, listen, I need. Can you give me like one bit of advice?" And I said, "Yeah, it's belief. Here's what you do." And he goes, "Is that it?"
Shrugged it off.
He goes, "Is that it?" And I go, "Is that it?" I'm like, "That's like heaven and earth. That's the universe. That's everything. What do you mean it's that it?" And he said, "Well, he said, I said, so I go, how many? I go, what? I go, what do you want to do?" He goes, "I want to do, 180,000 GCI for the quarter of 4 months, and then what I want to do." And I'm like, "How are you going to remember that? Like, it's not going to work." And I said to him, "Well, why don't you just do 6 a month?" I help people.
And he's doing it, yeah?
Yeah, this is a guy who rang me. 6 people a month. That's what I help. That's what I do. That's your identity. That's your belief. Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to start probably at 2 a month. Now, that person, all he needs is someone in his life
To inject belief.
to inject belief, to sit there and go, hey, this is what you can do. Bradley. Let's talk about Bradley just 1 second. Do you remember when we were at the World Cup? I was at the World Cup.
No, that's things.
What he did,
Yeah, that was not normal.
I've never seen anything like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
We're at the World Cup. We're at the World Cup. This is probably one of the best experience I've ever had.
Yeah, yeah.
This is Bradley, yeah? You think I know about belief? Bradley's a whole different level.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we're at the World Cup. And he's unbelievable. We're at the World Cup. He calls me. He says, I'm going to be mentoring Graham Arnold. I said, yeah, I'll be there. He said, great.
You guys were literally at the game.
Yeah, I was at the game. He was like, yep, text me, let me know what's happening in the warm-up, things like that, all right? And he was updating me and letting me know what's happening. And I loved it, right? He brought me along for the ride. So Bradley picks up the phone one day, and I'd call him. Every morning he'd call me, and I used to look forward to the calls. I love it. And he used to go, hey, I'll let you know, this is what Graham Arnold has got a press conference. This is what he's going to say. I've told him, it's done. This is what's going to happen. I'd be like, wow. Next morning, listening to the press conference, he says that exact same
literally.
thing, right? He says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out the words invincible underdogs. That's what I'm going to do.
Remember, who was that against?
It was against Argentina, I think.
Argentina,
He said, I'm going to say to Graham Arnold, okay, that the world is branding us the invincible underdogs, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. The world wasn't doing that yet, but in Bradley's head, it was. Now, guess what happened?
believed.
Guess what happened? Graham Arnold gets up there the next morning in the press conference, and he says, the world is branding us the invincible underdogs. Do you know what happened in the papers the next day? The world was branding them invincible underdogs because Bradley said, if I can get the entire planet of underdogs to align with this belief and frequency, it'll create a belief unlike no other that will drive.
JBL.
And just through the messages, just through that, he rang me once. He rings me up. I'll never forget this. I'll give you 2 things that were huge. This is what I mean about belief. It's what I mean about believing. He rings me up once and he says, Omar, he says, Australia will score in the first 9 minutes against France. Now, here's the thing about Bradley. Yeah? He's got no idea about soccer. Yeah. I'm thinking France. Bradley, you know, France is like, Australia's not even going to get a shot on goal against France. Yeah? Not even going to get a shot on goal. Gives me goosebumps thinking about it. Me, James and Daniel sitting in the grandstand. We're sitting at the bottom. Kid you not, we're watching the game. Lecky gets the ball down the right, knocks off Hernandez, knocks it to the right, whips it into Goodwin. Goodwin comes in at the end, boom, hits the net. I look at the score. I look at the watch, 7 minutes. I message Bradley, what the? Unbelievable, yeah? He rings me up, game against Denmark to qualify for the thing. He goes, I've just spoken to Graham. This is what I've said. And he was kind of like teaching me things. It was so good. He said, this is what I've said to Graham. I said, what'd you say to Graham, Bradley? He said, I told him to walk up, and forgive me for getting this wrong, Bradley, if I did, but he said, I told him to walk up to Matthew Leckie and just say, you scored tonight. And just keep walking. Don't say another word. He said, don't say another word. He said, just say that and keep walking. Oh my God, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
I love
Leckie gets the ball. Barcelona fullback at the back. Starts weaving in and out. This is Leckie, 30-something years old. Incredible speed. Razzles them. Takes it to the left. Bang, scores. That's the power of injecting a thought of a future in someone's mind that they can aspire to and they can feel it. And if the person can feel the thought there, then everything changes. So you want to take that back into calling. When you pick up the phone with value to give, with something to add, and you believe it in your heart of hearts, and they come into this business and we say, you have something to give. You have value to give. You can maximize someone's home. You can help them go to another level. You can change their life. What you do is life-changing. The frequency goes up and the belief goes up. And then when they pick up the phone, the person pieces and feels it straight through the phone. And the person knows the intent's strong. The person knows the belief is strong. And the person never forgets that energy. And when the time comes for them to do something and the intent's right, they always ring that person. So we can take anybody from here to here. But for the people who sit out there going, what is belief? I say this to you. You are action in it. It's just shit belief.
Remember 2020?
I love Bradley, man.
I know. This is a Bradley Omar Abid-esque moment. So everyone asks about that. You know, they had that breakout year, whatever. I was 22 years old. You know, should I say the number? Doesn't matter. Yeah,
it is what it is.
At 22 years old, I did like 280 grand for the year.
Yeah.
And then 23 years old, I did 2.5 million, which very grateful for Bradley and everything that happened, and Omar, thank you. But anyway, do you remember the meeting that happened at the end of when I was 22 years old? Do you remember the meeting downstairs in the boardroom?
This was when you had enough and you picked up the phone and called Bradley.
Yeah, but do you know what happened in that? Do you remember the meeting? So you got me and a couple of the other boys in there. This was the belief. So everyone asked, "Oh, how'd you do that year?" and whatever. And
you
how many
13
people
times
were-
your business though.
Yeah, but everyone. This is because we've been talking about belief this whole time. I feel like this is the best demonstration of belief I could ever explain. So So everyone says, how many more people did you call? How did you, when did you break into Lagana or whatever? The Lagana proper break-in happened 2 years after that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Lagana. It wasn't more people, whatever. It wasn't growing a team, none of that. So I was 22 years old. I'm in the boardroom downstairs. And I remember you asked me and a couple of the other boys, the OGs, you're like, how many people have you helped this year? How many people have you listed and sold? And then I remember I said 8. And it was October 20, whatever, I was 22 years old. And then the other boys said 11, 13, 14, 15. I was the lowest. And then you singled me out because I spoke to the most people. You're like, how many people do you speak to a day? This, I think, applies to every single person that's an agent or whatever. You're like, how many people do you speak to a day? I'm like, about 50, 60. And I felt good about it. Little did I know where you were going with this. And you're like, so how many is that a week? I'm like, it's about 250 or whatever. So he's like, how many is that a year? And I was like, it's about, 13,000 or whatever. And then he's like, okay, then you wrote 13,000 on the board. And you're like, so you're telling me you speak to 13,000 people for a full-time job, this is literally what you do for a living. And all you have to do is help people move houses in one of the biggest things that they want to do. We have all the tools in the world to help them. We all have the greatest intent here, whatever. And you found 8 people. And you're like, you either what you're saying on the phone has bad intent or you completely lack belief. And then you're like, so all it is a decision away. Because it's not like you need to speak to more people. Yeah. It's not like you need to work harder. We were getting in the same hours. Between me and the greatest agent in the country, we were in the office the same time.
And then you called Bradley?
And then I called Bradley.
Because I wasn't going to help you.
No.
My frequency was off where you were at, yeah.
And then I called Bradley, and then
he started building up. But to be fair, back then, Bradley helped me move from being a sales agent to focus on the business by looking after some of you guys, which was great. But
you share the same sentiments.
But when you get the best agent, this is what gets me. Yeah, you got some of the best agents in the country who say this is what I do, but they don't tell you what they.
That's the thing.
But they don't know what they're doing.
I till now I listen to the podcast and the same guy.
They're unbelievable.
I know, 100%. But the same guy that's doing 10 sales a year has the same routine as the guy that's doing 15 million.
It's not routine.
Exactly. But all they talk about is that. So what I feel like the biggest gift that I got is about belief. But it's hard.
If you tell a person with no belief and no value to give to call 300 people, he's just going to annoy 300 people.
100%.
Right? So listen, if you ask one agent to call 2,500 people in the marketplace and he spends the whole day calling and he says absolute nonsense to 2,500 people, I guarantee you that bloke ain't ever going to get a listing in his life.
100%. I remember you used to say this is back to belief. You used to say, this is for the agents out there, it's probably annoying a bit, but you used to say to me, and I used to be sitting there calling, and then you used to be like, Imam, I'll think of 15 houses and I'll list them.
You're going to make me sound arrogant now.
No. Yeah. As in, it was pure manifestation. Yeah. You used to literally hypnotize yourself as such. You used to literally be like, I can think of 15 people that I can send a very impactful text to right now, and their house will be on the market in 2 weeks' time. And I was like, what do you mean? That's because you've been around for 10 years.
No, that's the line. You've been around for 10 years. Yeah.
You've been around for 10 years. You're older. All the bad belief systems. You're older. You own the business. The shit. I hear this stuff all the time. Oh, but he owns a business. Oh, but he's got profile.
I used to give you guys all the listings.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't want to list houses.
I know, but
I wanted to build the business.
All those things, but now I've got my own team, I noticed that if I could just transfer belief, it would be the greatest gift ever.
Yeah, but transferring something in the future.
Yes, and the moment you make the decision, that's it. But
if you get these really great agents, right? They go on the stage. Each one goes on the stage. Each one writes roughly the same numbers. Each is helping roughly the same people. One comes off the stage. One says the best way to do business is do a colouring in competition.
Yeah. Other one says do auction.
The other one says do auction. The other one says no, do this. The other one says no, do this.
Send an agreement before you
go. But
not
one person ever gets on there and says, do you know what? Every single one of us have one common denominator. We
believe.
all believe what we do works for us, and we all have empathy to apply in a conversation. And that's the two foundations. But nobody says that. What they say is, you should do this, you should do that. But telling somebody they should do something and they don't believe it is never going to work. It's never going to work. It needs belief.
Let's say I hope anyone takes a form of this and can practice the part.
Maybe
about
we've
belief.
given no value and just ranted for 5 hours.
Maybe I enjoyed it anyway. But
How long has this
if-
been going for? 5 years?
I don't know. But we'll take snippets out of this, make some mad reels. Yeah. Anyway.
I'll make a reel out of you saying that.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. So if someone applies a form of belief and just starts thinking,
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play your giggling laugh like
no, the
constantly
high pitch
over
one.
it.
Play it. Do whatever you want. Anyway, this is a 19-year-old mom anymore. I'm not uncomfortable with myself.
Or you're
Anyway,
giggling constantly.
I found that
Yeah.
the second you actually believe, all the actions are actually easy after that. So
hard work goes away.
Yeah. So for example, if you ever if anyone watching, if you ever when you're out of flow, you ever sat there at a desk and go, who do I call, or who do I cold call, or who do I speak to? I found that when you actually believe, this is now on the practical side, you just know what to do. So if you actually know you believe you're 10 a month, you believe you're 6 a month, you believe you're 15 a month, or whatever the case may be, focus brings insights. The second you focus on that number and it's repeated and it's deliberate, you know exactly who to speak to, you know what to say, how to say it, and it all happens very, very easily. So whenever we said 2025 was abundant, we knew that 2025 was going to be beautiful. Everyone was like, oh, is that a spelling mistake? It's supposed to be 2024. No, we knew 2025 was going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
So then you just know what to do for the rest of the course of the period. Like if I know that I believe in my 10. If the moment I lack belief, I will lose complete sight of where I'm going and I will not know how to drive.
Then you start to overthink.
No, I overthink.
Yeah.
Bradley used to say this the most. He goes, when you're in the highest frequency, you don't have to think much.
Yeah, but what's the highest frequency? It's absolute certainty about what's going on that's going to be a benefit to you. Use the holiday analogy. I will go on a holiday. Nah, I'm going to go on a holiday. Nah, holiday's booked. Changes everything.
100%.
All of a sudden, holiday's booked, you're 2 days out for the holiday. The person does more work in 1 day and in beautiful flow, then anything can happen.
100%.
If a negative call comes in, the person diffuses it. No matter what happens, it's excellent. Why? Because the vision you see of your future is greater than where you are today, and you bring that feeling into today's actions. And that is what belief is. So all these people joining us, we are bringing tomorrow's feelings into today's feeling.
I want to ask you that just for the sake of our own entertainment. How come the business went from you didn't want it to grow, you didn't want it to grow, you didn't want it to grow to
No, I didn't want it to grow. I didn't want it to grow in a way that's consistent with how I've seen growth in the past.
So what allowed you to finally do that?
It hasn't happened yet, but it's as good as happened. Here's what allowed me to do that. When you go, this was my obsession. When you go, I'll use this analogy. You go buy.
You could have done it a long time ago.
Well,
Listen,
recruiting people could be the easiest thing in the world. All that you'd have to do is you use a form of self-interest by simply just saying to them something that they agree to of what's happening with their life. Real estate's tough, making calls is tough, people need to support you more, blah, blah, blah. You say that enough times to someone, they're going to agree, they're going to become vulnerable, they're going to join. You could recruit people all day long.
Yeah.
That's not what we're trying to do, okay? If you go to Woolworths right now and you buy Tim Tams, the greatest brands, and you open the Tim Tam packet, every Tim Tam to the consumer is the same. It's the same quality. The real estate industry is the only industry I found, right? There's a few others, car sales and that. The only one in the world that views the product as the agent and views the service as depends on who you pick. So if that's the case, why do you have where XYZ real estate, but all the Tim Tams inside the Tim Tam box could be different? And so for me, if I'm going to build someone, I looked at everything in the world.
How are you going to grow it with a Tim Tam that's different colours?
Every single website says we give great customer service. They don't even know what it is. They think that's what the consumer wants. They don't know what it is. So my job is to think, how can I impact millions of people that trust the relationship they're getting into with us that's going to yield a return of probability so high that the maximum outcomes reached, the experience is high. There are two things, Imam, that I see. There's emotional biases on a buyer and there's emotional biases on a seller. And until those two things, if those two things exist, there's always going to need somebody to communicate the emotional biases.
But to communicate consistently was
The emotional biases. Now, each one has all these touch points that if you do one wrong on one side or the other, the emotional bias kicks in. Now, a top agent has high empathy, which means what they do really well is they bridge those emotional biases. But even a top agent at some point starts to get help in and then things start slipping through the cracks. So if you look at a top agent, they become a top agent, but they never become a top business,
100%.
right? So to have a top business with top agents, you need a top consistent structure. And to do that at scale and through training is never going to happen. Never. You're not going to be able to go and train 3,000 people to perform at the right thing at the right time. There's so many intricate details because of the emotional biases, right? So for me, it was, how do I prove that manually in a setup that's controlled? How do I inject belief, structure, empathy, and focus and energy into a setup that's controlled with people that aren't from real estate? So most of the people we brought in were not agents.
That's right.
So how do I fix the belief? We had to fix that. Then how do we form a communication structure that fixes that? We had to fix that. Then how do we automate that to make sure that works? We had to fix that. Then how do we see the gaps? We had to fix that. Now, how do we scale that? We had to fix that. Now, suddenly you've got a scalable solution that allows everybody to operate at a performer's level, one of the best agents level, with the best empathy, with the greatest communication. And now you can multiply that. But the key is to wrap it in what is the true product. The product is not the agent. The product is the process that maximizes the outcome. But the process has to be deliberate. How's the process chosen? Based on what metric? How does it work? And once you have the process and it's wrapped into a communication structure that also fixes the emotional biases while it actually does the job of maximizing the outcome, you now have a product. So now you have a product. You're putting it in the hands of advisors, true advisors, not agents. So now you've got agents that come in and and you've got the consumer coming in and they're buying that packet of Tim Tams and it's exactly the same. And it's fixing everybody's life. It's improving the agent's quality of life. It's improving the reaction from the... Agents are not bad people. The issue is there's too many emotional biases on each side. And the agent has no idea how to bridge them. So you know what happens when they can't bridge one? They get a negative reaction. Then what do they start doing? Some of them start making things up because they're trying to patch...
That's right. Pieces where they got lost.
And this is where they get lost. And then that becomes their identity.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to go home to my children and say I'm that type of guy. So how do I do that? So the second I release the brand or the company, we're in trouble if we don't have that.
Yeah.
And now we have it. So now, the first batch of people coming into the business, we're going to help them have the greatest lives. We're going to help them promote the greatest lives. We're going to change the way that relationship happens. And once we do that in the first batch, we'll go to the second batch and the third and the fourth and the fifth, then worldwide. So back to going into the area. You do know what's coming next in relation to going to an area.
Community.
Yeah, I don't even know if I should talk about this because this one,
is this going to be?
This one changes everything.
Would this be accessible to other people,
What do you mean, other people?
other agents?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I know that where we're going is limitless. I don't know exactly how we're going to get there.
So what's like? I know my goals and my vision when I write every day. What do you write every day?
What do I write every day? I
actually don't know.
write. From a business perspective, I say belief impacts millions of people.
Millions of people.
Millions of people. Because once you can impact 100 people the right way, you have a responsibility to take what you've created to more people. That's purpose. You have a responsibility. Like you're one of the greatest agents. You can turn up to a place and you can light up somebody's life and you can create something out of nothing and you can create a process that you run great and you can create momentum and then at the end of it, both parties are over the moon. You have the ability to do that. It is a responsibility for you to take that to millions of people. But see, you can't take it to millions of people by yourself. You're going to need something to scale that. And so
gonna
you
help us
are a
do
great
that, yeah.
example of somebody that I would want looking after my house.
Yeah.
But then how does Imam do that to millions of people? So you have a responsibility to do that. God's given you a gift. God's given you something that's unbelievable. What are you doing with it? And so that's what we're going to do with it together. And we're going to get some of the greatest people in, and we're going to improve people's lives, and we're going to do something great. And there's going to be some people on the sidelines who turn around and say, what's this belief stuff? What's this blah, blah, blah. Let them keep doing their 500 calls, asking for market appraisals. And eventually they're going to see one or two things. They're going to go, wow, I can no longer add value to this community because this company's giving too much value. How do I get a piece of that? And then they might come and approach us. And we might say, now you understand. Let's build it together. And we keep building it together. And even the greatest agents, even the ones that believe they're the greatest, even the ones doing the greatest numbers, still can scale their service better than what they're doing. And they will come to us too, but they will be the last ones. And it'll just explode. And it'll no longer be a real estate agency. It'll be something different, right? And that's what it's going to be. So the community app, what do you think we're going to do with that?
Do we want to? Can we do a part 2? Actually, can we do another one?
Yeah, we can.
Oh,
I don't know.
it's
It depends, man. We'll do a part 2 depending on the audience's reaction to my rambling and your rambling.
I don't think it was any of it was rambling. I
Anyway.
think if they say it's rambling, then yes, I do, because he's a winner and he's got belief. but no,
Yeah, you know-
this is not thinking. Are we done?
yeah,
Yeah.
all right, what-
No, but I'm being serious. We should.
Why do you love him? What do you love him for?
Wait, is this going to be a bloopers thing? No, I'm not jumping
Why do you-
into politics and then you
Why
embarrass
do
me
you-
in my area.
Why do you love him? Why do you love
I
Andrew
think he's
Tate?
got a good message.
Yeah, what's his message?
He talks about becoming the best version of yourself, which is what you talk about. He talks about believing. He talks about how else are you going to impact your family and have an opinion that matters if you don't have the financial and physical capability to do it. If you can't defend what you think and you don't have the financial
But he says
capacity.
some outlandish things.
I think he said outlandish things to be able to get an audience. And then
But you
once
just
had
said
an
he does
audience-
good things with good character. A person who does that doesn't say outlandish things for an audience. That comes back to intentionality. So that's, again, picking up the phone and making up something so somebody lists their house with you.
I think the world of social media is very different to the world of selling houses.
I think the world of social media is still
I think
also
that,
connected to people.
I think there is no room to insult anyone in a marketplace where
But did
people
you
own
hear what he
homes.
said? Did you hear what he said? He
About?
was talking about. He said something. Someone sent it to me. He was talking about. He's a walking contradiction. Like, I think he's an unbelievable marketer. I think he's an unbelievable person in human psychology. I think he's an unbelievable person in.
I think he's a capable human too.
I think he's a capable human, of course. I think he's got unbelievable characteristics.
I think you share a lot of the same sentiments. You train every day. You believe in building a business.
you know-
you believe in helping the younger people
But
around
he
you.
said that you should. He said, I think peace is in a loving relationship with kids. I think that's what peace is. He may have it, he may not. Maybe it's a trade. I don't know. But I actually think he says things like, "Hey, listen, if a woman cheats on a man."
We both know that was for class.
He said she's emotional.
I think that's
he said
clickbait.
it's emotional. It's different.
But you
Hold on.
understand marketing more than I do. Is that not clickbait?
But that's the thing.
Who would know who he is if he didn't say that?
Okay, but
yes, did he sacrifice his integrity to get
That's
get
what
an
I'm trying to
audience?
say.
Is that
What type of belief is
his
that?
belief system was after sacrifice my integrity to build an audience?
Okay, and what do
should
you
teach
think?
him how to do
What
it the
do
other
you
way
think
then?
everyone's belief system is out there in sales?
Well, luckily we don't have that.
But what do
belief
you think it
system.
is?
It's that I'll sacrifice
it's
a bit
the
of my
same-
integrity. Yes.
It's the same thing.
Who's done it with the right integrity?
Um,
Do you think Tony Robbins at some point had some form of sales
I
pitch,
think-
something controversial?
I haven't heard.
And there's something to pick
I-
out of
I-
everyone.
I think.
Who do you listen to?
I don't think.
But who do you listen to? Because he's one thing that
Prophet,
gets me. I mean, wait.
Jesus.
Because this is on this.
They're
Let's
good.
bring this back into a reel.
Not
yeah?
only that, but
Just wait. Let's bring this back into a reel. This is back.
who do you listen to him up?
Wait, I'll get to that in a second.
Who listens
But
to?
this is for the record who Omar Abid listens to. You sometimes, no, out here publicly, like you listen to people that have
Celine Dion?
impacted. No, this is very bizarre, by the way. Once you screenshotted like something on the app, and then at the top it just said Celine Dion playing on Spotify. I was like, brother, what are you doing? Talking to AI, listening to Celine Dion. Anyway, a bizarre character, man. Anyway, do you sometimes forward, like, say, something Warren Buffett says about being cautious of business or,
There's
or
always,
a threat?
everyone's got
But-
something great to say. package what's great.
Okay, then this is what I don't understand about you. So let's say I take parts of what Andrew Tate says is great,
Yeah.
but then you look at Warren Buffett, but Warren Buffett doesn't have the same belief system you have, which is stay in shape and be strong and be healthy and all that. He's overweight. So if he doesn't have the same belief system,
But
as you,
him
how do
being
you listen to about
him
something
being
else?
overweight doesn't impact somebody else's life. It impacts his own. Somebody else saying a comment that impacts somebody's life, and what they're exchanging for that impact is their own self-interest. That's a criminal, man. That's a complete criminal. Somebody being overweight, that's not hurting somebody. But you turning around and saying something with the view to get something, impacting someone's life,
Like the-
is the epitome of a criminal. That is a con artist. So for me, I want none of that. Good luck. If that's what people want to do, good luck.
So can you take? So if you're a young agent, who would you listen to?
What would I do if I was a young agent? I wouldn't listen to much. What I'd do is I'd write out a vision of the future, right? I'd write out a vision of the future.
But it's part of staying blinkered, listening to content
hold
and
on.
keeping it there.
Yeah, but part of staying blinkered is staying blinkered and not having too much information. So all those people reading too much and looking at things too much, I think people say go read books on psychology and sales and all of that. Yeah, that's all well and good. I would do this. I would write a short-term vision of the future that I believe in present tense. Okay? You could use our belief app and reach out if
But
you
I'm
want.
going to be
But
very
hold on,
specific.
let me
I'm gonna be
finish
very
then. Let me
specific. I'm gonna be
finish, let me
very
finish,
specific.
let me
No, no,
finish.
you've written a short-term vision.
No,
You've
well,
discussed
now I've
that.
got something else after
Okay,
that.
you're
though.
in the car. You're on the way to the office. What do you play? Are you playing
Well,
Celine Dion or are you playing your
I'm
podcast?
getting there. I'm getting there.
What's better for frequency?
I'm
A
getting
good
there.
song?
I'm getting there. If you write a short-term vision of the future that's simply written, very simple,
Yeah.
and you play Celine Dion while that vision of the future is in your head, listen to that. Because what you're listening to is the vision of the future. You start to believe it more. If your vision of the future consists of you being the greatest salesperson on earth and impacting millions, then make sure you have a book specifically about the greatest salespeople that you're listening to. But if you're there and you don't have that vision of the future and you start listening,
matter what you
what are
listen
you
to,
what are you trying to do?
Empty the
There's
cup.
nothing deliberate. All that you're doing there is you're clouding your brain. And back to what does human mean in Arabic and San? What does the cultural thing about that word
They forget.
suggest to mean?
People
to
forget. To forget.
So what happens when an anchor moment in your life comes in that's negative? What do you remember? The 100 books you read or the anchor moment that's
anchor
negative?
moment.
Exactly. So you're just going in circles. You don't have a constant. What is your constant? What do you constantly go back to that's simple? My daughter, what is it? Powerful, I'm kind, I'm wonderful, sublime. My name is Zara Lou. Everything I say comes true. I'm powerful, I'm kind, I'm wonderful, sublime. My name is Zen Ray, grateful for every day. I'm powerful, I'm kind, I'm wonderful, sublime. My name is Lana B. Things come to me easily. They have a constant. Then you build around the constant. Listening to things without a constant. And this is the
love
thing.
that.
Imam, you're one of the greatest agents, but you got to start articulating what makes you great. It's not the number of calls you're making. It's
But
just
this
not.
is where it actually. This is I'm that culprit where I can perform.
That's why you have Bradley in your corner.
Yes, I can perform extremely well, but sometimes I don't even know how. So sometimes I find myself listening to like music from the 80s that's just upbeat and it just sounds really good or whatever, and it elevates my
But
frequency.
if you have your vision in the future planted in your head, there's no issue with that.
And then other times I'm listening to like a forecast about RBA and rates and all that. And
But that's part of your vision. That's part of your vision of your future.
Because I want to be able to know my information well.
But why do you want to know your information well?
Because I need to speak to I need to report to my owners.
And by
tell them
reporting
what's
to
going
your
on.
owners, what does that do
I
for
give
them?
them certainty.
Okay, and then how does that help you? It helps you.
If the more certainty they have, the more information
trust
they have
you?
to make a decision. 100%.
Okay, and then what? And where do you
Like,
end
would
up
you
with?
trust an agent that doesn't know what's
No,
happening?
and
in
then
the
what do you end
marketplace?
up with? You end up with the result
Yeah,
that you
100%,
wanted.
yes.
Okay, so that is
part of the vision.
That's all stemmed. You know, some people say to me, "You open up all these businesses. Why do you do it?" You know, I only open up one business. They think I open up a lot of businesses. I actually don't. Oz Realty is Oz Realty. Yeah, that's the real estate brand. That's the belief. That's got a lot
All
of
the
IP in
IP,
it.
yeah.
Okay, belief is the platform that powers that, and Mellow is the empathy. Belief, empathy, energy. I've opened up 3 businesses that cater to one. So people say I'm diversifying what I'm thinking. I'm not. I'm blinkered. I need to know about marketing because marketing helps the price. Marketing helps the attraction. Marketing helps the owner. I need to know about messaging because messaging does the same thing. I need to know about communication.
What do you think of this? Some, you know, in this podcast, or whatever, some people say, I'm really good at this thing and I outsource everything else. Wait. I outsource everything else that I'm not good at. Other business people, like both billionaires or millionaires, whatever it may be, the others say, I know every single thing that happens, every spreadsheet, every this, I know every number. I know if my payment processor goes up by 0.2%. You seem to be on this side, like the guy that knows every single thing about every single part of the business.
Hold on.
Why?
Because the people that outsource that don't know the thing they're outsourcing are outsourcing fluff. That's the difference. You can outsource, but if you don't know the details of what you're outsourcing, you can't measure it, you can't track it, you can't apply belief to it, you can't apply urgency to it. If I outsource a marketing thing to Jazz, I understand the visual director role or parts of it. She's better than me at it.
Yeah, like you know an ingoing inspection and everything that's involved in it. Yeah.
You have to know every part. It baffles me.
But what do you think of those agents that go, I just want to list and sell, but I own a business. I just want to list and sell everything else. I got head of PM here, I got head of marketing here, or whatever. They got no idea what their desks looks like or whatever it may be. Couldn't they what does that look like? Like, why do you disagree with that?
Well, it comes back to not knowing your process. So to be a great listing and selling agent, you need to provide value at listing and selling.
100%.
Okay. And part of that is knowing the quality of the photos. Part of that is knowing angles. Part of that is knowing. Now, the thing is, what some agents do. They're like, I will just list and sell a home. And that's the difference. They will list and sell a home.
Yeah.
They won't get the maximum. So they don't care about the maximum. And it's only a matter of time before somebody
like
comes in who cares about the detail. The agents who do not care about the detail don't care about the maximum. Doesn't mean they can't sell the home. But remember, the consumer wants the maximum outcome and a great experience.
So all it takes is someone like us to be
who knows the detail.
Yes.
So what does the app do now?
It makes sure that
it does that for you, Iman.
Yeah, 100%.
It works with you. And that's why agents can't operate at the levels they need to. They can't do what they need to do because there's too many emotional biases. They're not trying to do the wrong thing.
You're not saying you blame them. You're saying you can identify that there's so many moving parts.
So many. There's actually not that many agents with bad intent.
No.
I will say that most people in sales need a psychologist chair.
Too far now. You didn't need to go there.
I
don't know what was the necessary.
I will say that. They need to sit on.
You also happen to run a big real estate business, so maybe you need one too.
Probably. I didn't say I'm not part of that.
Maybe you're curing yourself by helping so many people.
I didn't say I'm not part of that. I'm saying that our brains...
Why?
Because our brains take in so much information. They work really fast. They're trying to help, but there's a line that when we can't help, we'll find...
Oh, this one I want to know too.
Otherwise,
last one, right? There's...
gotta go.
What time you gotta go?
We're in 10 minutes.
This one, I'd actually wanted to ask you this, right? I wanted to ask you this. There's a theme in the industry of like go hard for say like a quarter, have a massive holiday at the end.
Yep.
Go hard for like sprints and then breaks or whatever it may be. I never found you really like going away for 5 weeks and stuff like that. Is it because you just really did? Because I found even now, like I did a trip at the end of last year. I was like, this is great. I was grateful for the trip and it was mad, but I was like my life in Sydney is pretty good. Like I don't know, I don't need to get away from it. Is that just pure escapism? Or
No. I think
is that needed?
Yeah, I think.
How do you reconcile the whole holiday, not holiday thing? Like, what do you make of that?
I think life has to be a celebration. And it has to be joyous before success comes to you. And part of that is spending time. It depends what you like. For me, sitting with my wife watching Netflix is a great holiday for me. Me going to New York with her is a great holiday for me and my kids. You know?
Oh, you can enjoy everything.
Exactly. What I'm trying to say to you is if you know the amount of people you want to impact and how you're going to do it and you run that course, if you want 7 weeks worth of holidays, take 7 weeks worth of holidays. It doesn't matter. What matters is the focus on impact remains intact. So if you say, I'm going to do 10 deals, and then you say, I'm going to go on a holiday and enjoy myself.
That's funny, because then if
your focus is not impact, eventually you'll come back and you go back to 1 deal.
Yeah, but what you are saying is if your vision is to do 10 and you want to celebrate after, if you do the 10 in the first week of the month, go on a holiday for the rest of the month.
Yeah, but while you're on holiday, you're still a person of character. That's what I'm trying to say. The constant doesn't change. I impact people. I bring great things to people's lives. So when you're on holiday, that's still part of your character.
100%.
So no matter what you do, it's never going to go away. That's what I'm saying. The second you go off the course of I'm actually impacting people and helping people, is your numbers start to go the other way.
100%. Humble, grateful, giving.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. And these top agents, they know that, but they don't communicate that because they don't know what they're doing. I learned it. Thank God I learned it. But they actually really don't know what's making them successful. It's not that they get up at 4 o'clock.
No.
Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, man. I get up at 4 o'clock. I look at my alarm and I go, oh my. Once I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to the bathroom, and I said, which idiot would be up at this time? Right? Oh, but I get they want to be up at this time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
in my head, I'm like, how do you even get up at 4 a.m. in the morning? What is this? I go back to sleep. Right? Well, there's nothing to
What time do
do.
you wake up?
I woke up the other day. But disclaimer on this, I'll work till maybe 12 o'clock sometimes.
That's the thing.
Because I'm doing the app thing, right?
100%.
So I'm working
Yeah.
because I love it.
But peak agent days, you're waking up what time? Still 7 and you had crunch at 7:30.
Probably 7:30.
For 13
But
minutes for some reason.
yeah, it's 30 minutes.
What's
a minute.
your training routine like? I hear it's pretty bizarre.
What I do is...
I hear you train for like 7 minutes and you like swing a kettlebell or like move
it's
a
not
plate.
that. It's not that.
Don't tell me you believe in your physique.
actually
if
see-
you do that, I'm done with the
Listen,
whole belief talk.
listen.
I'm joining the real estate industry and I'm doing 80 calls a day. And I'm door knocking and cold calling and I'm asking for fucking
You should
friends.
still door knock and cold call.
Yeah, I know,
the
but
right
don't
message.
say you believe in your physique and all. Then that's when
Everybody should door knock, cold call, do whatever they can, but the right message. Let me
but
get that clear. It's identity. It's what do you really believe you look like, feel like, and are like, and then you will rise to that identity. It's all identity. And people don't believe me. They're like, oh, it's not identity. It's identity.
So is this the same thing as when people say, oh, your age, your profile, whatever? Is it the same thing when people say, oh, your genetics?
There is genetics do play a
That's
part.
the thing. You're
A
forgetting
part.
that.
I reckon you can manifest genetics. I'm joking.
Yeah, that's
Genetics is plays a part, but I don't believe. I believe you can always improve. So there's always something you can say to influence the outcome. There's always something you can say to improve. Now, in closing, now that you know what you did, but what are the things you do and you will do? What are you doing next? Like, what are you getting to? Where are you going next?
To go from 200 to 2.5 within 12 months took a decision and immense new belief. Now my vision's to go to 5, and that's taking now a new vision.
What
new
would
belief.
Bradley say when you say my vision's to go to 5?
He'd take the piss out of it.
Yeah, and he'd basically say,
He'd say I'm worthy to do a lot more. He tells me I should do 100 million a month, and that's still having nappies on.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you have so much value to give.
Yeah.
Why are
but
you
really,
limiting?
I love
the value?
the analogy that you and Bradley said. There's different wordings, but even Bradley told me to get in the tunnel. He says, "Get in the tunnel." He goes, because when you're in a tunnel and it's dark and all you see at the end of the tunnel is light, you can only go forward. Looking up's not going to help you. Looking to the left's not going to help you. Looking to the right's not going to help you. You can only look straight. Yeah. So now, anytime something happens, like I texted him today, and I was like, Bayside done 225. He's like, great, tunnel, big boy, all maximum prices done this month. Like that, and I know that I just need to stay the course in the tunnel, then I'll get to 5. It's a new belief system. I'm not calling in more people.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So that's
That's
ironic.
what I'm trying to
This
say.
whole time I was questioning your whole thing about belief, but I know now here's another thing. For the last 3 years, my numbers have been more or less the same. Last year was I've done the most that I've done out of the 3.
What are your numbers, Imam? You like your numbers?
Stop, this is embarrassing. Unless it's really like outrageous, embarrassing, doesn't matter. Anyway,
I just thought I'd.
yeah, trying to stroke my ego. It's all right. But for 3 years straight, they were more or less the same. And then last year they went up a small amount. And all I spent last year doing was asking everyone, oh, how many people do you need in the team to do 150 sales? How many calls do you make? What's your database like? What's your this? And I ended up at the same number.
Absurd
It's
question.
Yeah, I know. I did all this behind your back.
Yeah.
But I was asking all these
We
questions.
were building the app for a very long time.
100%.
So for us, our focus shifted
Was that,
to
yeah.
working
Well,
with.
I'd call some of the other boys, even whoever, and I'd be sitting there on podcasts going, oh, they say this, they do this, well, maybe more, like whatever it may be. And I found that all that did was make me lose belief, because if I'm asking that many questions, I obviously don't believe it's going to happen. And then now I just know that it's just one number, and I'm in the tunnel, and that's it. It's the same decision I made to go from 200 grand to 2.5 million is the same decision you make to go from 2.5 to 5.
So you are a belief change away
That's it. It's actually
from
just a decision.
fundamentally affecting everything.
And then it's funny. Then when I speak to you, or I speak to Bradley, or anyone that has like very strong belief, and I ask you like
My belief isn't strong enough yet. It's going to another level.
it's stronger than mine because the size of the business, whatever it may be. Whenever I ask you like a specific question, you look at me like this guy doesn't really believe. Like I'll ask, say, Bradley, there's this new guy that I met and I want to hire him. What do you think? Is that going to help me get to Thingo? And then he'll kind of cut me off and then go back to the tunnel. And then I'll ask him, Bradley, I'm thinking about sponsoring also this place. And then he'll be like, he'll go back to Thingo. And I'm like, why isn't he answering any of my questions? Because I think I'm showing signs that I've gone off the belief and I'm looking for something else.
100.
And then I remember I asked Bradley yesterday like a weird question. I was like, well, Bradley, what should I listen to in the morning on the way to work?
He
just cut me off. He didn't even answer. He just cut me off. And then I even said to him too, I was like, and this is very, very, very useful, I find. I'd ask him like before the public holiday, last weekend, Easter long weekend, I asked him, I was like, Bradley, if I really want to get to 5, shouldn't I be working Friday and maybe we're working Monday too? And he goes, whether you need to work, whether you need to not, whether you need to go to the office, whether you don't. And he goes, if you believe your maximum prices for the month, they're gonna come. And funnily enough, I was sitting by the pool, my place on Friday, and I exchanged the property, the Erskine Street, and the buyer came out of nowhere, and the deal happened. On Sunday, there was a property that there was a bit of a personal situation, so it stayed on the market for a little bit longer than normal, and there was no one on it for like 3 months. And I had that conversation, and you had the Game 3 meeting, and you were talking about how when you keep the fire on the stick for long enough, it's going to burn and the flame's going to hit. So between that meeting, conversation with Bradley, all I could think about was I literally just had fire on a stick in my head and a tunnel. It's the only 2 things I could think about. And then all of a sudden, I went from... And then you told us about, because some of our energy dropped. So it was a halftime meeting, and you were like, here's what's going to happen. The game's going to be unbelievable. Hopefully you can upload like a snippet of it or whatever. And then I remember I called all my owners with like just the biggest enthusiasm ever and a plan moving forward. That property went from no offers for 3 months to an offer and a signed contract, and then another offer at a higher number that ended up going into a best and final, and it's now sold for like a record for an apartment in Lugano. And that all happened in the space of 48 hours. So it taught me a very strong lesson, which is whether you're in the office, you're not in the office. Whether you wake up at 5 a.m., you wake up at 7 a.m. Whether you make 100 calls, whether you make 40. If you actually don't believe, nothing's going to happen.
And people like you, this is what I love working with people like you, I'm sure Bradley does too, is the people that don't overthink.
That's the worst thing ever.
It's the people that allow it to happen. The people that allow it to happen, focus brings insights. It's not mystical. So once your focus is there, and as Bradley says, you're looking at the tunnel, you start to see the insights ahead of you. It becomes a clear map.
I'd love to pass that on, because I found in doing this and doing it well, I found one of my biggest gifts have been I don't dwell. Like if you told me, I remember once there was a house that you really liked, and coming out of the street, you didn't want to list it. You just wanted to see inside the house. It was unbelievable. It was 43 Lugano Parade, Lugano. That's where I actually met Michael. This unbelievable house, like Omer Abid style house.
Anyway, go on.
As in, like,
I remember. I said I really like that house.
I
Next
really
minute,
like the
it was
house.
booked in my calendar.
And then I was like, yeah, I know it. And then I just walked across the street. And then over time, I've learned whenever I lost my the gift of belief or whatever it may be, and everyone has something, I get too logical.
Mom, do you know how many people out there? Do you know how many people out there I see that are could be 10 times better than you, me,
100%,
or anyone? I see them, yeah,
and they think
and
too much.
I see they speak well, they're eloquent, they work hard, they put in the hours. They're
disciplined, wake up on time,
character structure. They got everything. They got everything going for them. But somewhere in there, they block the messaging they need because they've given up on a dream they used to have, and now they look around and they say, "Well, I didn't get it. They shouldn't get it," and they block off any resurrection of that dream, and they don't let it in. and they stop believing and the vision drops. You know how many people I see that in an instant, they've got all the ingredients to just go bang, bang, and they don't do it because of belief.